All that talk of gumbo made me hungry for gumbo. I'm making a chicken sausage gumbo. And this is how I started off. This is 4 onions in the food processor. And then when this gets good and brown, then I will add some garlic and bell pepper and smother that down. And then when that's done, I'm going to take this pot. I'm going to braise all my chicken and put it on the side. After that's ready, this is ready, I'm going to put my chicken in there, stir it up real good, let it cook, and then add water and let the chicken cook the rest of the way. So when it starts getting like this, you want to watch it close because you see how it's sticking on the bottom? That's the good stuff, okay? So I make me a broth and I keep it on the side. I use a little bit of these ingredients, put that on the side, and then when it starts sticking, I just add a little bit of this, stir it in, loosen all that up, and let it do it another time. See how it loosens it all up? And when it gets little, you just don't want your onions to scorch, because that's what gives you a bitter tasting gumbo. So that's just the onion on the side. I got my garlic waiting to go in. I'll put that, let that, when it starts smelling a little bit. And then I have this. I'll chop this up in my blender. Preparing my chicken. I'm going to saute that, stick that on the side as my onions are cooking. Now I will tell you this. When it gets to the consistency I want, I'm going to show you that I add maybe a tablespoon of flour. Not much, just a little pinch of flour. That's it. Until I return. So now it's time. So you see how it has that little gratin? It still has that little oil in it. I'm not going to put my broth in there. I'm going to put my garlic in there and let the garlic kind of cook just a few minutes. Okay, now got my garlic in there. Garlic, 1 minute or so. When you start smelling your garlic, smell it, that's when you want to put your bell pepper in there, because the garlic is going to cook down to nothing. So you just want to kind of fry it up in there a little bit, like that. Let it kind of come to another stick. Because remember, every time you add a vegetable, it loosens up the bottom. See that stuff on the bottom right there? That's the good stuff. Now, I got a thought. I'm going to kind of flour my chicken when I braise it. And then when I'm ready to make my broth, I'm going to put the juice in here and then in there. Now, I'm just going to lightly dust my chicken. Now, you do the same thing when you do seafood, except you don't have to braise your meat. But you throw your meat in at the end. Get your seafood don't take long. Okay, now, I'm starting to smell that smell a little bit. Good smell. And you see this? I'll put that in there, and I'm going to smother that down. When it starts turning, I'm going to show you, but when it starts turning like soft, like smothered down, then I'm going to stop it at some point. But you got to cook that bell pepper down real good. Now this time, if you want to put a few pieces of celery, I'll probably do that too. After this starts cooking, I'm going to cut me up a little celery and do the same thing and add that all at one time. And then when I do that, then I'm going to add liquid. Until next time. Okay, so now you see how it's starting to stick. You're about at the halfway part, maybe a little longer of letting that smother. But you see how they're starting to soften up a little bit. So at this point, I'm going to add a little bit more juice. You see how that's just going to bubble it all up. The one thing you don't want to happen is you want to keep a medium fire, medium to high, I guess, and just but you got to watch it closely, because the one thing you don't want to happen is you don't want it to scorch and burn on the bottom. So it's a slow cook, but it brings out all the flavors of your vegetables, which makes your broth good. Right now I'm seasoning up my chicken, and then I'm going to put a little bit of flour on there, and I'm going to just kind of braise it with that. Put that on the side, and when this is ready, this is good, I'm going to throw this in there and let it cook for about a half hour or so. When that chicken's done, then your gumbo's done, you turn it off and you let it rest. So at this point, it's pretty close to being done. Once my chicken is finished braising, I'm going to throw all that in there, add water, and let it boil until my chicken is cooked. So my chicken was in here. I don't waste anything. I'm going to add a little bit of water to this and swish it around. And then I'm going to add it to this pot when I'm done, and then add it to my gumbo. Okay, my chicken is done. Didn't take but a few minutes to do that. See the bottom of my pot? Now I'm going to take that water from that pan and throw that in there and let that braise up a little bit. Don't worry about grease, because at the end, after you let it settle, you're going to take some paper towel, and whatever grease you got flowing on the top, you're going to pick that up. But you see how that loosens up all that gratin on there? So we're just going to let that kind of simmer for a minute. Get all those good juices up from there. And in the meantime, I'm ready to throw my chicken into my onion mixture. And then I'm going to add all my water. So now my chicken's in. You give it a good swish around. Good swish around. We're doing this with one hand. You know, see all your gratin on the bottom, your chicken's all in there. All that chicken's going to cook down. There's gravy on the bottom. The rest of this gravy. And put all that gravy in there that you made. And don't waste anything. I'm going to add water to this until I fill up my my chicken, and then I'm going to turn it on high, get it bubbling. Then I'm going to turn it on medium, cook it for about 30 minutes. I'm going to test my chicken and make sure my chicken is cooked, and I'll get back to you. See that nice pretty color that it got from caramelizing those onions? I just added a little bit to my water, the browning sauce. It just has no flavor. It just has a little coloring in it. But that was only when I was making my broth. But if you want it darker, you just add a little bit more of that browning stuff. But that's a good, rich color. Now, when this is all going to be done, I'm going to add a little more water to this and let that ball up. I'll add a little parsley, and then I'll season it once it's cooked. And comes to a ball, I'll taste it, season it, and then that's it. I'll add some parsley at the end. And now I know you don't like filet, but my grandma at this point would add filet at the end. And I'm going to cut up a little bit of sausage. Well, my girl, it's getting close. I did add a couple of bay leaves in there, and I did add a little bit of filet in mine, just because I like the flavor of it. And I had to add a little bit more of the, I like to use the Miss Dash in it, and a little more garlic powder, the garlic powder. But you see, when your legs start coming away from the bone, it's getting close. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it off. And when we get back from the house, I'm going to, by that time it'll have been sitting for a while, I'm going to take some paper towel. All the grease will have come to the top. And I'm going to take the grease off. And we're ready to eat. See you.